I've dealt with all types of clients, from international Fortune 500 companies, uh, uh, a lot of companies in Japan, companies around the world, as well as across the United States of America. Um, my son and I, my oldest son, does a lot of marketing. We sometimes will do talks together. Today's talk, I wanted to give you a little bit of an opportunity to look inside your company and its functions. Uh, Probably to some degree has Oliver, because of what he does, there may be some connections to, because what we work for is where are you going, where are you taking your company, what's your written plan? And then I typically go into the company and I look at the resources and tweak them, you might say, to make sure it's functioning properly to get the results it's desiring. Some of you may know some of the information I'm going to share with you, but in the world of business, a company will start out small or large. And I'll give you some statistics just briefly so you can digest this. And I'm going to speak mainly in America, but it's not untrue of other parts of the world, whether it be South America, Europe, Asia, etc. Every day in America, you have companies starting. 17 to 1900 businesses start every day in America, 5 days a week, 1 to 100 employees. And in a 5-year period of time, you'll have 80% of those businesses out of business. Anybody ever hear that statistic before?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have those businesses fail, then you have 20% left over. Now, how many of you have ever walked into the business, maybe met a business owner and found out a little bit of information, and you find out that they've been in business 10 years and they look something like this? They're kind of wore out. And the percent that is not wore out, the percent that are smiling, the percent that are flourishing is about 1.5 to 2%. And that statistic is a statistic that you do not want to be involved in. How many of you guys want to reach your dreams, reach your goals, and have the resources you need to have a great life? Raise your hand if you want that. Of course, and you, because everyone that's actually on the screen here, I can tell you've lived some life. Yeah, how many of you like to watch people? Yeah, I as well. And when I watch people, I try to learn something from my observation of them, so that I can help other people achieve that smile, achieve that success. But the fact is, while people want to achieve greatness, I'm going to just be frank with you. Most people don't want to work and are not disciplined to really achieve that goal. It takes a lot more than we actually imagine. And we have to swallow that. It's sort of like, I get up very early every morning to get ready for life. And the game is an interesting game. And I want to share just some points that might be helpful to you, because I want every one of you to succeed. And I'll tell you why I want you to succeed. More important than just you succeeding, when you succeed, you affect so many people's lives in a positive manner. Your communities do better because you do better. You can be involved. If you're a family man or a family woman, it's vital that you have that balance. And one of the reasons I started my company is to bring balance to the entrepreneur so they can walk down that road successfully. All right. So just a couple of points. When I walk into a company physically, and obviously the pandemic's been an interesting time, so I've been doing a lot of virtual, but I walk in and I look at the resources in a company. I was in New York and I made a film as a result of my travel to New York about 20 years ago called Emotions in the Workplace. But when I walk into a company, I just observe people. And I'll try to do that for an hour to 2 hours, just watch the people, watch the owners, watch the executive. I sort of pretend to be a ghost. So I don't want anybody noticing that I'm noticing them. And by doing so, I sort of get a feel for their production, how efficient they are, how do they complete cycles of action. And it gives me a perspective of, are they a player? Are they really a part of that group, passionate about the goals and purposes? Or are they there just for a paycheck? Or are they there in a selfish reason? Anybody have ever worked with somebody who is really there for themselves and kind of, it's me, not us? Anybody ever work with someone like that? Yeah. And what happens if you allow somebody to be like that in your company, they start affecting the players. They increase the stress level. They decrease the efficiency of the organization. I was in a company yesterday. I gave a workshop with about 70 staff, and I gave a little description of players, pieces, and broken pieces, and how do they conduct themselves. And I asked people, have you ever been around those people? And everyone went, I have. I said, did it affect you adversely? Absolutely. Okay, so that's just a point. This whole talk is not about just not that subject, but I wanted to share with you, you want to make sure that people that are with you are with you. They're on that same team. They actually have the discipline to play hard enough, strong enough to help that dream of yours be achieved. Okay, so along the way, many years ago, I created a test. It's called a business analysis, and I really invite each of you. This is a free analysis. I'm not trying to sell you guys. I'm just trying to actually, what I really would like to do is have you just achieve your dreams. And some of these points might be helpful. The test, you can see it's actually behind me, and Tony has a link to this test. And what I'm going to assess when you do your test is the following points. We're going to address your executive solvency and long-term planning, how organized you are, your sales area, your finance area, how your organization is operating, quality control, new sales, and we're also going to address, are you open to help, and do you know what you're doing? Now that may be a funny question, but I deal with a lot of doctors. And so if I'm talking to a doctor, now you could say, well, all doctors are competent. Well, I guarantee you that's not true. If I'm talking to a doctor and I say, so are you a good doctor? And they go, well, I'm not bad. I go, we got a problem there, right? So if someone is doing something, we ideally want them competent on what they're doing. And if they're not competent on what they're doing, we need to address that right off the bat, because you got to know, If I ask you, each of you, to say, okay, give me your score on your own role in your company, 0 being you're not doing too well, 10 you're actually on top of your game and you're probably hallucinating a little bit. But if I ask you to give yourself a score, that's going to give me an idea. Okay, you know your stuff. You're aggressive. You're learning, which is great. Okay, so I have an example graph here, and I did this particular graph is a graph I did on a company outside of Tokyo. And when you do the test, like it may ask you a question like, does your payroll officer get staff paid on time? And you may say, I don't have a payroll officer. Now, if you don't have a payroll officer, guess who the payroll officer is? You. Right. And you may say, but I'm the only person being employed. Well, do you pay yourself? And you might say, sometimes. But again, if you're brand new, this will be data that may be helpful. But if you're just starting, literally just starting, the data, I hope helpful, but the test will basically be a waste of time for you because you haven't gotten the experience to have the answers to be graphed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So here, this person took this graph, and also understand this: tests are tests. You can take a test. Um, the test is only going to be as valuable as you give it true data. Don't try to false like, oh, we're doing great across the boards. Well, when that's if it's true, great. If it's not, just answer the question. So if we start over here, you'll see over here, you can see that there's a shade of blue, and you got white up here. This is solvent. This is insolvent. The bottom of the graph is insolvent, disordered, instability, unreliable, non-performance, deterioration, getting smaller, unhealthy, etc. So you want to be up here. Now, also, this test is based on your reality. So if you know you're capable of so much more, even if you're doing really well, and I'll tell you this about this company in a minute. But let's say that you know, if you can see my hand, let's say this is what you know you can do. But let's say you know you can do this much more. Then the test may be low, but it's based on what you know you're capable of. And it will show up that way. Now, if you're doing this, and this is what you're capable of, your score may be pretty darn good, but it may not necessarily be giving you a heck of a lot of resource. So someone who really knows they're capable of doing more quite often scores low, even though they're doing really well. You follow me on that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so over here, you're taking the test, and I'm talking to, and this was being done on a translation with two Japanese gentlemen. One gentleman was 88 years old, founded the company, wonderful, wonderful person. And the other person was his son, who was taking over the company. And the score here, if you can see it, is right here. Now, what that told me is one of two things or both. One, did they have a actually long-term written strategy, a roadmap on where they were going to go to achieve their goals, a written plan? Two, were they as solvent as they should be based on the company's ability to produce? In their case, I said, based on this, you have no clear-cut roadmap, or not as clear as you would like it to be, and you're not as solvent. And I said, so is that true for you? And both of them said, arigato. I said, okay, good. So we're just going to acknowledge that. And then I had them say, tell me a little bit about that in regards to how you see that. And so they described it to me. Then I went to this next point, which is here, it's organization. And you can see that the dip on the graph is quite low. And so my question to them was, okay, is the business running you, or are you running it? And they said, well, it's kind of running us. Okay, now if the organization is running you versus you running it, how are you going to feel at the end of the day? Kind of tuckered out, right? And if you do that 5 to 6 to 7 days a week, you might be taking some extra pills. That was supposed to be a joke. So the organization is running them. So then I had the person describe to me, how is it running you versus you running it? And so they described the day, how it started. Have you ever started a day, and this may be true for some of you, where, okay, you've got your strategy, you've got your battle plan, my gosh, we're going to have a good day. And by the end of the day, you didn't get one item on your battle plan done.
Yes.
Right? So that tells you a bit of, we got to back up here and take a look at what we can do to adjust that so the activities are more efficient and your teammates are more aligned to get the goals accomplished. So we did that. And then repeat sales. What we noticed in the company, I said, are you touching on all your opportunities within the framework of people you've sold to? And they went, gosh, we're really working on new business on a constant basis, but we have a lot of business we could be getting to. We're just not getting to it. And we don't have a strategy to do so. And you know what I mean when I say that? Like, let's say you have 100, let's say you have 200 customers in your book of business, but let's say for whatever reason, you're not communicating to 150 of them. You're concentrating on 50 plus any new customers. So there's a lot of potential business there that you're not tapping into. Nod your head if you understood that. Okay. Santiago, does it make sense?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
All right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here in finance here, this also in the organization part here, this also has to do with human resources. And it's not uncommon that the hiring process in most companies is an area that we really focus on. If we work with a client, we get an agreement with them that they cannot hire anybody unless we approve of it. Partly because people get duped. They get duped on resume and not necessarily fully confronting all aspects of the past of the person you're hiring. So it's important that you hire teammates that are really going to be teammates. Crucial point. It's probably the #1 area of ruin in small or large companies around the world. Poor hiring in regards to getting the right teammate for you. Okay. Okay, then we have finance. In this case, this company is making a lot of money, but not what they could be making. And another area that's not uncommon is the poor control and handling of the finance in a company. And again, that may not be an area for you, but it's an area that is not uncommon. And so you want to make sure that the handling of the dollar, doctors are classic in this. They have quite often a great cash flow, but they're very vulnerable to all kinds of bright ideas people have for them to spend their money. And boy, do they spend their money. And they wonder why, how come I had made $5 million last year and I don't have anything in the bank? Well, everybody had an idea for you. Okay, then we go take a look at operations. And then it's probably, this is where Oliver, you would come in too. It's like, okay, how are things flowing in the company? Are they really efficient? Are they moving through the company properly? And so we watch the process in regards to where are the weaknesses? Where are the breaks? Where do we have a rub? Are they doing it in a timely manner? And quite often we overhaul that a bit. Then we have quality control. Now, quality control, you can see here, in this case, we address quality control from the viewpoint of, is there ongoing training? And is there a apprentice program to make sure when you hire somebody, they actually get put in the position properly with the proper education and the proper drilling? And most companies do not have this. The other side of quality control is making sure that those clients that you're servicing get surveyed so that we can learn from them the success we provide, but also if there's some things we need to improve about our service to our customer base. And they had no program addressing this subject of qual, and they were not necessarily marketing some of their wonderful success stories. And they weren't doing videos of customer successes. They weren't putting that on their websites, et cetera. So this was a whole area here. And you can see here, their marketing area was also unfortunately weak. And if there was ever a time as a result of this pandemic, if you want more business, you better have a good focus on making sure your marketing efforts are actually being done properly, because that's where you're going to get a lot of new business. And the times have changed. So that was another particular area. You can tell here, as far as their handling of stress, they are typically Japanese. They handle stress pretty darn well. They also knew this basic principles here. They actually knew what they were doing. They were very competent people. So when I went through this test with them, I said, there's a couple of areas here. You can see this one. These are weak points. And those weak points, there's a concept called income lost, not made. So what should this company actually be making that it's actually not seeing, but they're losing money, income loss not made? In other words, let's say if you look at your own organization, if it was actually operating on all 4 cylinders or 6 cylinders or 8 cylinders, you'd be making more money. But because of two cylinders not functioning, you're losing power. In this company, in this particular company, they do quite well. And I said, so based on your graph, and I asked the person, and well, I'll ask you too, but you don't need to necessarily share this with me, but I asked the 2 people, gentlemen, I said, do you mind if I ask what your gross revenue was last year? And they answered the question. And based on their gross revenue, because of these holes, even though they did great and they gave nice bonuses, because of these holes, they lost 30% of their potential revenue. And for them, it was $3.16 million of lost revenue that they could have made. And they made great money. But even though they did make great money, they could have made that much more because of the holes in marketing, because of the holes in the HR organization, and the long-term planning and qual. Now, the point of looking at this is partly we don't want to join the graveyard of the businesses that aren't making it. We want to actually not only grow your company, grow your business, which is what your dream is, we also want you to have a life. And in today's world, what I find is a lot of people are kind of like go, 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 go. They don't have time to slow down, to speed up. Sometimes you have to back up from yourself to look at where you're going. So I would like to open it up to questions, and then we obviously would like to have you the opportunity to take the test. And I can schedule with each person that does the test and do it within the next week so that you have instant feedback to just look at yourself. I also was talking earlier, if you have another top executive or another owner with you, I invite you to have both people do it or your top execs do it, because it gives a multiple viewpoint. Because you may have one view of the company, but maybe your partner or another top exec has a different angle on it. And it's good to get a view from there so that as much data can be digested, and then we look at the graphs together. Okay, so first off, any questions?
I'm good.
Make sense? Okay. Tony, you have given them the link, right, for the test?
Yeah, I'll give it to everybody right now. So do you guys see it in the chat? Make
Yes,
sure
I do
you know how to copy and paste from the chat. You can probably just directly click on the link in the chat. So raise your hand if you see the chat, the link in the chat.
It works, Tony.
Okay, good. Santiago, do you see the link in the chat? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, I do. I'm already.
Okay. Open the chat, see the button if you don't see it. And then you can click on that link to go to this web tool to do this test. And and what we're going to do is to do this test right now. And Mr. Ron Walker here will help you as you go along and answer your questions as you do this test here. Go ahead and click on that link on your computer right now.
Then you have to fill out the form, right?
Yeah.
This is like going to this will give a perspective of an examination. You go to the doctor, and we're going to do a doctor analysis of your company based on this test. So it's like we're going to check your blood pressure, et cetera, just to make sure that you guys, everything's working right. Or if something needs to be addressed, I'll give you some ideas to do. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll be here for you if you have any questions.
Yeah, so go ahead. So this is the second half of this meeting, basically. So go ahead and fill out your information. The information, it will not be used in such a way like other people get your information. Ron Walker is the only person that gets the information. He doesn't sell your information or anything like that. So don't worry about that.
This is just for you. And I know some people are in different parts of the world, so we can set the time for you when it's convenient. I stay up, and I get up early and I stay up late, so that's not a problem.